Hey there, Joe Escobedo here. Welcome back to A Cup of Joe. Today we have a very special guest. We have Frank Wong. Frank Wong is the president of Scholastic Asia. He's based in Hong Kong, and he's going to be talking about how to manage yourself and others. So, Frank, thank you so much for being in the show. Really appreciate it, and very much looking forward to hearing your stories and insights today.
Well, good morning, Joe. Thanks for the invitation. I enjoy talking to the young people these days as I'm getting older and older, and so that I can share my experience. I've heard from some gurus that wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes. So I have made enough mistakes, and so now I'm sharing my journey. Hopefully, your audience wouldn't have to make the same mistakes. So I have summarized a couple points when I look at my own career journey, both as an entrepreneur startup right out of graduate school, and then moving on to multinationals working in the U.S., and then moving to China, having then stay for 10 years in China, and finally coming back to Hong Kong since 2003. And managing the Scholastic business in Asia. And what I've learned, a few things, and those few things actually work very well across different industries and also across different countries. So I consider that as probably pretty universal attributes. I think the first thing is that everything has to begin with passion. You obviously have heard this many times, but it's really true. Without passion, it's hard to imagine that you can be good at it. You know, passion leads to excellence. Why? Because you would not see that as a job. You will find many ways to read up on it, to get better at it, because you just love it. So sometimes I look at myself, what I do, and feel so. I have to pinch myself that I actually get paid for doing something that I really enjoy, and that's very important. So now, of course, it begs the question: how do you find your passion? And one of the things that works for me is that if you are not required to do something, if on your moment of free time, what would you like to do? What books would you like to read? And there are or movies you like to see, you know. So that would probably be an indicators of your real passion. And if you find that passion, just pursue it, and eventually you'll be very good at that, and you'll build a very good career of that. And I think the second point I want to make is that get out of your comfort zone to try new things. Your career path is never going to be a linear. Take advantage of all the opportunities to broaden your experience. And I can share with you, I started out as an entrepreneur, and then joining big corporations in marketing and brand management, Colgate in the US. And then later on, moved to China and get an opportunity to actually manage a factory. From there, I get reassigned to build the national sales organization in China with 500-600 people, and those are all a very interesting experience, and it fills in the gap, you know, because you think about it, if you start out with marketing, and if you have actual hands-on experience in managing and operations, factories, know the ins and outs of manufacturing, operations, logistics, and then you also have managed a sales organization. So what will be next step, right? No choice but they put you up as the head of the country. So it's not a linear curve. Sometimes it may be zigzagging. But I think the most important criteria is does that next assignment fill out some of the experience gap that you may have? So that would be the criteria. The third point I want to bring up is when you have a choice between money and experience, always choose experience over money in the early stage of your career. And because once you have those experience, as I mentioned earlier, money will chase you rather than you chasing money. And in this regard, I also would point out it pays to nurture relationships with headhunters, because you'll be surprised. Yes, at the early stage in your career, headhunter would not pay attention because you are not making enough money to worth their while. But once you get to be a director level, okay, a lot of the jobs, yes, they may still come from your own personal networking, but many jobs would come through the headhunters. Why? No, now I have been using a lot of headhunters because it's just a more efficient way. Instead of me having to go through so many resumes, the headhunters will screen everything down to 5 candidates for me to meet, and so it just become a more rigorous and a more professional process. So headhunters, as you move up the rank, will be someone that you like to get to know well. People sometimes make the mistake when they're out of job, then they're desperate try to get to know a headhunter. Headhunters are not interested in you when you're out of a job. The headhunters are interested in you when you don't need a job, and that's it's important to keep in mind. Headhunters are not there to help you find a job. They're there to find the best candidate for the client, okay? And so, but what you can do is to make sure that you, just like in any marketing organization, marketing discipline, is top of the mind awareness, okay? So if you always stay in touch with the headhunters, then you are the top of mind awareness for the headhunter. So for me, every 6 months or so, I would actually invite and take the headhunter out for lunch, just to keep up, even though I have no interest in changing job, because the headhunters, they are very knowledgeable in that particular industry. They know who's hiring and what kind of people are they hiring. Are those companies in the growth mode, or they're now hiring more for turnaround situation? So they have a lot of industry insight. So get to know them. Treat them like a friend. Just sometimes they may approach you, hey, are you interested in this? And even if you are not interested in it, it's okay. But then tell, hey, I got 3 person that you may want to talk to. Give them some reference, okay? So help them and be helpful. And so I think that is important for the young professionals to keep in mind. Nurture some relationship with the headhunters who are in your space, okay? The 4th point I want to make is that become known as very good in certain things. Okay, that's what we'll call your hip pocket skill. Okay, so it's something. Let's say if you are known as a problem solver, and people, will come to you for those certain things, and that is very important for your career. It's like I was very fortunate that I started out with marketing as my hip pocket skill. And so you keep that, and because it's also my passion. So I will continue to read up on the marketing, a lot of good case studies, and I just find it so interesting. So keep it up, your hip pocket skill, be known as someone who's good in a certain thing, and that will help with your career. The 5th point, in terms of managing yourself, and this is the last point I want to make, is be humble and be nice. That may sound very, very obvious. But often when you become more and more successful, when you keep rising up in the hierarchy, you may become a little bit more arrogant. And there's an old joke, right? Be nice to the people on your way up, because you may see them on your way down. So EQ trumps IQ as you move up. Okay, why? Because in the earlier stage in your career, it's your IQ that is important, because you have to show that you can solve the problem, you can think through things, you can do more analysis, you come through. So this is more IQ driven, the things that you can do, that you solve the problem yourself, and then you get noticed. But as you move up, it's not about you anymore. It's about you having that EQ to lead the team. and harness all the energy of the entire team to go and solve a problem. But if you are known as someone who's arrogant, who takes all the credit, then no strong people are going to willing to work for you. And so keep that in mind. EQ trumps IQ as you move up the organization. So those are the 5 points I would make in terms of managing your own career. Now I got to share four other points when you are in a position to manage others. First point is you hire the attitude and train the skill. This is what a very, very popular mantra among the HR professions, because skills you can easily train with the specific needs of the company. But sometimes the attitude is very hard to change, especially by the time at that stage when you're in the 30s. You try to change someone's fundamental personality and character. It's a hard stuff, very hard. Unless that person go through some midlife crisis or some unforeseen big event in their life, and then they would shake him up for him to reassess. Maybe I do need to change my point of view, my attitude, right? But it's hard. It's a hard thing. So hire the attitude and train the skill, and also be humble. Again, you can never hire 100% right. Okay, with the best process, multiple people interviewing a candidate, you will still miss. You will still have a miss. So the important thing is not to think that you can hire 100% right. But more importantly is when you know you have hired someone wrong, when you know, what do you do? A lot of people will freeze. They either feel that, my God, if I let go of this person, then so you reflect very bad on me that I make a wrong hire. So then they would give themselves a lot of good reason to say, oh, well, maybe I should give Joe more chance, send him out for more training and this and that, to convince yourself you to just not to make that hard decision. Okay. And that happens all the time. And this is where a lot of managers would fall short. And actually, sometimes you feel that you are being compassionate, being considerate. But in fact, the opposite is true. Because eventually, if this person is not a good fit for whatever reason, eventually, when the business doesn't do well, when the business has to go through some downsizing, this person will be the first on your list to let go. Now, usually, just like, for example, right now, during the COVID crisis, a lot of organizations have to downsize. So now, if it's now when you tell Joe, I'm sorry, it's not working out. This is the worst time for Joe to go and find another job. So you are actually better, you're more considerate to confront the reality upfront and let Joe know, sorry, you're not a bad guy, but it's just not a good fit. You won't have a long-term future. So you're better off now. Go and find something that fits better, okay? And that may be at a much better time when the market is growing, right? So keep that in mind. I learned this, this insight from Jack Welch, the GE, the famous GE guy, reading his biography. And I reflect on it, and it's so true. And it's so true. So the next point I want to make is, as a manager, don't be too obsessed with someone's weakness. We all have our weaknesses. You are not trying to hire perfect, as I said. You should try to leverage on his or her strength instead. Okay, so is find that right fit. Leverage on someone's strength and make a big deal out of it. Okay, now of course, you as a manager, you don't want to assign someone who has a certain weakness, and that weakness would be magnified in a certain position. So that's why it's about a fit. So if you know I'm very bad at certain thing, I'm I don't have patience for a lot of details. Then you shouldn't assign me into a position that requires a lot of detailed attention, day in and day out. Okay, so you as a manager has to figure out what's the right fit as well. So another point is, as a manager, you have to learn how to make things happen with influence, not with authority. Learning how to take others with you, and that is about communication, about making sure everybody is very aligned on the objective, that people are energized, they want to follow you. And as part of that process, leading others, don't try to add too much value and appear as the smartest guy in the room. Don't be too judgmental, because sometimes when your staff comes to you with a proposal, with certain things, and you may feel compelled, I'm the boss, so I'm supposed to know more. So I feel compelled that this part is not as good, this is good. So you feel compelled to, so-called, in your mind, adding value. But in fact, it's pure annoyance. Very often, just say, thank you, good job, it's good enough, and leave it at that. Unless you spot something that is so fatal, so fundamental. So very often, sometimes being a manager is to learn how to let go of the minor stuff. And so focus on the positive to motivate your staff, pat them on the shoulder. And that helps to build the right kind of organization, because you can imagine if you were the subordinate and going to your boss, and you know when your boss says something, oh, yeah, Joe, this is good, but then in your mind, Joe will always be waiting for the word but. It's good, but. So learn how to get rid of the but. It's just say it's good, done. And so keep that in mind. Sometimes it's counterintuitive, because you, having risen up the organization to that position where you have a team coming to you, asking for advice, and you sometimes it's hard to resist that temptation to add value, because you're supposed to know a lot more than the others. And so learn how to say no. No, I don't need to do that. And just say thank you. So the last point I want to make is, as you move up the organization, and you probably have heard that phrase, lonely at the top. Why? Why is it lonely? It's because as you move up the organization, you have fewer and fewer people who will give you honest feedback about yourself. Okay, so it's very important to develop that self-awareness, okay, of your impact on others, and that doesn't come in naturally. So you need a little bit mechanism to help yourself do that. Now, in a big organization, they have all these tools like a 360 evaluation, and there's very elaborate, and everybody's asked 600 questions, and then they're trying to triangulate and ask the same question five times in 5 different ways, and to see whether the respondent give the same answer. So it's very complicated, and when you are leading a big organization, it's very daunting. You spend a lot of time just going through that. What I have found very, very useful is some very simple mechanism that I've implemented everywhere I've joined, and that is something called a start, stop, and continue. So for example, I would ask my direct report, okay, once a year, to just tell me and spend no more than 5 minutes. If they spend more than 5 minutes, that means they're overthinking. So just tell me, what are the things you want Frank to start doing? What are things you want Frank to stop doing, and the things that you want Frank to continue to do? And then and in each of the bucket, no more than 3 things. No more than 3 things. Whatever comes top of the mind. And then send this anonymous. Send this to the HR person. Don't even send to me. Send to HR person. The HR person will consolidate all this stuff, and then very without exception, a pattern will show up. There may be 10 out of 12 people say the same thing. So Frank, you should stop doing this. And when I do this to my direct reports, the first time around, it's almost like a denial. No, I don't do that. I don't yell at people in public. No, well, you do. 10 out of 12 people say you do. So maybe you want to think about it. Okay. So I use that as a not so much for performance evaluation, but for the manager himself to have a time to reflect on his own style and his own behavior, how it impacts on others. And so when I do it every year, and then I'll sit down to review that result with the manager, and I say, hey, don't try to fix everything. Look at the feedback and pick up one thing that you commit to fix in the next 12 months. Okay, if you can fix one problem every year, after 5 years, you'll be a damn good manager. And that's all that it takes. So develop a sense of self-awareness, and the fact that if you are willing to do this, you send a very strong message to your own team that you are not afraid to confront your own mistake. And that helps to build the right kind of culture, and a culture of openness, and a culture of safety. That, you know, a lot of people, managers say, I want people to give me critical feedback, but my God, you actually haven't created a safe zone for others to disagree with you. So you have to do that. You have to do a lot of little things to really let the managers know that you really you walk the talk. You walk the talk. It's not just a lip service. And something like this, the start, stop, and continue, really send a message in the organization. So that's the 9 points I have. I hope your audience would find that useful. So over to you, Joe.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Frank. I think there's so many, insights in there in that very short period. I think as a young professional, I broke almost all those rules in the beginning. So I wish I would have had this session, 15 odd years ago when I was starting my career. Also, this is the first time I've been fired on my own show, but you were in a scenario. No, but like I said, it's been incredibly helpful, I think, for anyone who's just starting their career, even, mid-level. I think this will be super helpful. And speaking of, young emerging, professionals, I would love to have Nia weigh in on this as well, because she's just starting her career, just graduated from college. So I just want to get her thoughts in terms of what are some of the burning questions she had from Frank after that great presentation.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed listening to you, Frank. As I was listening to you, I was typing some notes and preparing some questions. And as you were talking, you were answering some of my questions. So that was really great. As Joe was mentioning, I'm still relatively young. I just finished my MBA. And you can imagine that during this period, a lot of us are a little bit concerned with the whole COVID situation. It's a very uncertain environment. And I'm sure both of you and Joe have faced different kinds of uncertainty and chaos in your careers. Do you guys have any tips on how young professionals who are either just entering the job market or coming back into the job market after post-grad or a period of break, what are your tips for us to navigate this difficult period?
This is probably a question I'm going to face next Monday night. I'll be talking to an MBA and EMBA class in Hong Kong. This is probably the question that will also come up. And thank you for the heads up. And I think about it. And I would say right now, I think the first point I want to make is that, especially for someone like you who are an MBA heading out to the market, you have to accept the fact that your first job is not going to be your dream job. It's not going to be. I happen to be very lucky to end up where I am doing things that I pinch myself, as I said, that I actually get paid to do. But it didn't come just like that. It didn't come from after I finished my graduate school. I was, when I started together with some other friends, we started a business. So I was an entrepreneur, very much like Joe, and doing everything and anything. And then after 2 years, it didn't work out. And then I kind of like have to start real job search. And then end up in a job, the first job that I'm actually a paying job. Well, it's good, interesting. I was among the very first batch of people who were involved in China, trading in China. And this is the 80s, right? I could do that very well because I'm a Chinese. I speak the language and I study China. So, but then I found out, nah, this is too slow, too bureaucratic. It's not my cup of tea. But then what? Okay, so at that time there was no internet. There was, you cannot believe it. That period. So every weekend I would go on the New York Times, read the New York Times in the Wall Street Journal, and the career session, and that's where they actually put job ad on that. So I think every weekend I would search that very diligently, and then respond to those ads. So usually every Monday morning I would send out between 12 to 15 cover letter and resume. Some of those ads you have no idea who they are because they only describe the job without the company, and they ask you to send it to a PO box, right? So you have no idea, but the job description is interesting. I keep on sending. So I did that for almost a whole year, every weekend. And all it took was one nice Friday afternoon. A headhunter called back and said, and I have no idea. And she called and she said, Colgate-Palmolive is looking for a marketing person. I said, really? But why me? I'm not even an MBA. I haven't studied anything about marketing. In a way, I'm a failed entrepreneur. But they said, well, they got tons of those MBAs and tons of people who work for advertising agency before in the brand management. Yeah, they're looking for someone different, someone with a different background to bring into the mix. So the rest is history. I joined Colgate. 7 years of Colgate and learned a ton. And because I was an entrepreneur, so I actually approached even in a big company environment, I still keep that entrepreneur mindset. Okay, so in other words, I don't really get caught that much with those big corporate mumbo jumbo. From point A to point B, I will always go a straight line. Okay, and I'm very and I think one time my boss was saying, hey, Frank, you are the most financially savvy senior brand manager that he has ever worked with. He's the VP of marketing for the US company. And says that one heck of a compliment. But it came as a second nature because when you're an entrepreneur, just like Joe, well, you watch your checkbook very carefully. All right, so when you look at the P&L, well, do I really need to spend this money here? Okay, so you treat it like it is your own business. It's your own business, and you keep that mindset when you go into a corporate world. I can guarantee you will be very, very well served. Okay, so that's a long way to answer your question, and I'm not sure I answer it directly, but it's about perseverance. For a whole year, every weekend, 12 to 15 cover letter, get out there. It's almost like, okay, that's my weekend routine. I have to do that. And all it took is one lucky break. And here I am. And so my advice is that even if you are going to volunteer or even if you are going to do an NGO or nonprofit, okay, and this is one thing that I actually would also recommend to the young people. The NGO sector is actually very interesting. Because guess what? Guess the people who are on the board of the NGOs, they're usually very successful people, right? Otherwise, they will not invite you on the board, right? And so you get a chance to impress the successful people, the group of people. And when they are impressed by what you do, well, interesting opportunity may follow. So again, find your passion. You cannot fake it, especially if you are trying to do some NGO work, right? You have to find something that, I love the animals. I love, so find that passion and follow through. But beyond that is perseverance. Your network, especially when you're with your MBAs and that you have a lot of alumni network. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I have so many alumni from my alma mater everywhere, reaching out to me. And very often, right now, they're willing to do it for free, just the internship experience, the meaningful internship experience. And that very often it leads to a permanent job offer. Okay, they just want to, all right, so if you say you love what we do, this company, what it stands for, and you're willing to come in, just do it to show that, to prove yourself. And then as soon as the budget allows, the company, you'll be the first one. You already have the inside track. Yeah. So there's no one single answer. But just think about your network. There's the network, both your natural network, the alumni association, and let's say if you're interested in marketing, there must be a lot of marketing association, marketing clubs, right? Those kind of things that would lead you to do a lot of things. So have you graduated yet?
I'm graduating in October.
In October. Okay, good. Wow. So now it's doing everything online.
It's a bit of a challenge, but it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I really liked how you were mentioning kind of like a balance, right? It's both perseverance and at the same time exploring things, trying to figure out what you're passionate about. But how do you think we can strike a balance between getting out of our comfort zone and figuring out different things while at the same time developing a certain level of expertise?
Well, I'm a realist. You cannot be constantly in the name of getting out of a comfort zone and change your job every 6 months. Okay, right? But that means you never stay long. One point is like, I now have to interview and recruit a lot of people in the last 20 years, right? And one of the things that is very important on that resume, that I see you stay in a company long enough to have an impact. Okay, if I see someone who can never get promoted in the job, but the person will get promoted when he or she changes job, change a company, that to me is a question mark. Okay, that what does it tell you, right? This person, well, the people who know this person well, they don't think that she is promotable, so she has to go to a company totally new who don't know her in order to get a promotion. So to me, that's a different. It gives you a different feel. But the point is that stay trying to find that balance of a comfort zone, pushing yourself out, is that you need to stay in a particular position to actually develop a certain expertise. Okay, and that expertise, as I said earlier, becomes your hip pocket skill. That gives you the confidence that, hey, I go out and try something, push myself. I think I will like it. I think I'll be good at that. But if it turns out not to be true, you can always go right back because you have that hip pocket skill. And I remember when I left Pepsi to join Scholastic, a lot of people said, wow, what happened to you, Frank? Totally new industry, from all the consumer products and also into the children books, And but my thought process is that with almost a 20-year track record in consumer product company, if I go and try something new, after 3 years, I don't like it, I can always go back. Right? So think of it that way, like also your own skill set. So if you're a marketeer, you develop some marketing online, for example, those skill sets are highly portable across different companies, across different sectors. So once people know that you're good in certain thing, then your job is how to help them connect the dot. Guess what I've been doing in this industry. This can very well apply to your industry. By the way, your industry is very old-fashioned. you can probably need some upgrading and bring in a lot more the online element to engage with the younger generation, right? Because guess what? All your customers are fast dying off now. So unless you start engaging the young people, you are not going to have a business, right? So think of your skill set not so much that I have an experience in this particular company in this position. No, transcend further much. What does it say in terms of your real skill as a professional that can apply in different settings?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, Frank.